Imagine a world where energy is infinite, where every home, every car, every city runs on clean, endless power. No smoke, no fuel, no emissions, just light, warmth, and progress, forever. But that's not the world we live in. Today, humanity burns 15 billion liters of oil every single day, just to keep the lights on. And for every second that passes, we pump 1,000 tons of carbon into our atmosphere. The planet is warming, oceans rising, power grids straining. The world is desperate, hungry for something more. And in the midst of this crisis, a handful of scientists, engineers, and dreamers are chasing a light that could change everything. A light so bright, so powerful, it fuels the stars themselves. This is the story of fusion energy, the impossible dream of creating a star here on Earth. For decades, fusion has been called the holy grail of energy, unlimited, eternal, the power that burns at the heart of the sun, captured, contained, and harnessed for humankind. But for most of the last 70 years, it was little more than a dream that burned billions of dollars, and left behind a trail of scientists whispering, fusion is always 30 years away. The science was sound, the physics undeniable. Take two light atoms, like hydrogen, slam them together under unimaginable pressure and heat. They fuse. And in that instant, a fragment of their mass converts into energy, pure energy. Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, becomes reality. Just one glass of seawater, if fused, could power your home for decades. But there was a problem. To make fusion happen, you need to recreate the sun. Temperatures over 100 million degrees Celsius. And the moment you try to contain it, the walls melt, the magnets fail, the plasma escapes. Fusion wasn't just a scientific puzzle. It was a battle against physics itself. By the 1980s, fusion had become the punchline of physics. Funding dwindled. Projects shut down. Governments lost patience. Yet, somewhere in the corners of these dying labs, a few refused to stop. At MIT, in Europe, in Japan, engineers kept refining magnetic confinement. The tokamak design. A ring of plasma held by magnets heated to 100 million degrees. Every year they came closer to balance. That sacred point when fusion produces more energy than it consumes. But almost wasn't enough. Every experiment fell short. Every announcement ended in disappointment. Still they kept trying. Because they weren't just chasing science. They were chasing destiny. As one physicist said, if we can make fusion work, we solve energy forever. We end the era of scarcity. And then, after decades of failure, something shifted. In December 2022, the world witnessed something historic. At the National Ignition Facility in California, scientists aimed 192 lasers at a tiny capsule of hydrogen. In a flash shorter than a heartbeat, they ignited a miniature star. For the first time in history, fusion produced more energy than it consumed. That moment, a blinding pulse of light, was the spark that reignited a global revolution. Because now the impossible didn't look so impossible anymore. Every news outlet called it the dawn of the fusion age. But for those who had worked in silence for decades, it wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. As word spread, investors, nations, and innovators all turned their gaze toward fusion. Not as a dream, but as a business. Because what if, within our lifetime, fusion plants could power entire cities? What if deserts could become energy farms? What if every country on Earth had infinite, clean electricity, without war, oil, or pollution? It's not fantasy. It's happening right now. Startups like Commonwealth Fusion Systems, Helion Energy, and ITER Technologies have raised billions. They're building compact reactors that could fit inside warehouses. Not megastructures like the government-funded ITER project in France, but agile, modular systems that could scale fast. Each is racing toward one goal, commercial fusion. And this time they're not talking about 30 years away. They're talking about 5, maybe 10. So why now? Why this sudden belief that humanity can finally hold a star in its hands? 3 reasons. First, technology finally caught up. Advances in superconducting magnets, AI plasma control, and materials science made the impossible practical. Fusion is no longer just an experiment. It's engineering. Second, private money changed everything. In the past 3 years alone, over $6 billion in private capital has flowed into fusion startups. That's more than the total investment of the previous 60 years combined. Because now, billionaires, venture funds, and governments all see the same thing. The energy race of the century. And third, we're out of time. Climate disasters are accelerating. Every year of delay means billions of tons of emissions. Millions of lives affected. Humanity is cornered. And necessity is the mother of revolution. Behind every reactor, every laser pulse, every plasma burst, there are people. Men and women who've sacrificed decades of their lives chasing a single dream. They've watched careers rise and fall. They've endured ridicule, rejection, and failure. But they keep going, because they believe that one day, a child will flip a switch, and behind that light, will burn the same power that lights the stars. That belief, that faith, is what keeps this story alive. Every great breakthrough in human history began as a fantasy. Flight, space travel, the internet. Each one mocked, doubted, until it became reality. Fusion is the next frontier, not just of science, but of imagination. Because if we can build a sun on Earth, we can end the age of scarcity. We can rewrite the story of energy, and maybe, just maybe, the story of our species. We've chased this light for a century. Now, it's chasing us. The race for infinite power has begun. Coming up next, the commercial race. Who will build the first artificial sun? For over half a century, fusion lived in laboratories, hidden behind layers of theory, mathematics, and government funding. But today it's breaking free. What was once a scientific curiosity is now a commercial race. A new gold rush where physics meets profit. And this time the stakes are higher than ever. Because whoever controls fusion, controls the future of energy itself. In the past 5 years, a new generation of private companies has emerged. Small, agile, and fearless. They're not waiting for governments or slow-moving committees. They're racing to be first. Commonwealth Fusion Systems, born from MIT, raised over $2 billion to build the world's most powerful superconducting magnet. It's the key that could make compact, affordable reactors possible. Their design spark is not a dream. It's being built right now in Massachusetts. If it works, it could power over 100,000 homes from a machine the size of a shipping container. And then there's Helion Energy in Washington state. Backed by tech giants, even the founder of Microsoft. They're building a reactor that looks nothing like a tokamak. Instead of magnets, it uses direct compression, firing plasma rings at each other like cosmic bullets, and capturing the energy directly as electricity. No steam, no turbines, just pure pulsing power. Helion claims they'll deliver a commercial fusion reactor by 2028. That's not decades. That's 3 years away. Just bold. It's risky. But it's also exactly what innovation looks like. For decades, fusion was too slow, too uncertain, too expensive. But the 2022 Ignition event changed everything. Now, venture capitalists are treating fusion like the next tech revolution. In just 2 years, private funding in fusion has tripled. And this isn't charity. It's competition. Energy is a $10 trillion global market. And fusion, if commercialized, would rewrite the entire economic map. Whoever delivers fusion first won't just sell energy. They'll own the infrastructure behind AI, crypto, manufacturing, transport, everything that runs on power. That's why companies like TE Technologies, First Light Fusion, and Tokamak Energy are pushing boundaries with military urgency. Each one betting their design will win the race. Some say it's reckless. Others say it's evolution. But one thing is certain, fusion is no longer a science experiment. It's a startup war. And while startups sprint, the old giants are waking up. The European project ITER in southern France remains the largest scientific collaboration on Earth. 35 nations, over $25 billion in funding, and a reactor the size of a cathedral. Its goal? To prove large-scale, steady-state fusion. No shortcuts. No startup bravado, just raw science. But ITER's problem isn't physics anymore. It's time. First plasma isn't expected until 2035. By then, smaller private reactors could already be on the grid. The irony? The world's biggest fusion project might lose the race to companies 100 times smaller. Still, if ITER succeeds, it could pave the way for industrial-scale plants across the world. A global power grid, fueled by starlight. The challenge of fusion isn't just heat or confinement. It's turning science into something that runs every day, safely, cheaply, reliably. How do you build a reactor that can withstand 100 million degrees? You can't use normal metal. It melts instantly. That's why engineers are using liquid lithium walls, superconducting coils, and AI-driven plasma control. Systems that can react faster than any human ever could. Inside these reactors, matter behaves like something alive. It twists, dances, breathes. Contain it too tightly, it dies. Let it loose, it explodes. It's like holding a star inside a magnetic heartbeat. Every reactor is a balance between chaos and order, a dance between destruction and creation. For all the excitement, fusion's future isn't guaranteed. Because after ignition comes the hard part, commercialization. Building one working reactor is science. Building thousands, that's industry. And that requires new materials, supply chains, regulations, and political will. Then there's cost. A single fusion plant could cost several $1 billion to build. That's cheap compared to the world's energy hunger, but expensive for a startup trying to survive. And yet, fusion companies argue that once the first model works, the cost will plummet, just like it did for solar panels and microchips. Still, not everyone is convinced. Skeptics warn that fusion may never be profitable, that the timeline is too short, that the hype will crash before the physics does. But even they admit, this time feels different. Because for the first time in history, fusion isn't being dreamed about. It's being built. AI is the silent force accelerating fusion's race. Today's plasma is no longer controlled by human hands. It's guided by algorithms that can predict instabilities before they happen. In 2023, scientists at Google DeepMind developed an AI model that stabilized a live plasma loop inside a Swiss tokamak, a task once considered impossible in real time. That's the difference between $1 million experiment and $1 billion reactor. Fusion is now a data problem. A problem AI can help solve faster than any human ever could. And that changes everything. So who will be first? Helion says 2028. Commonwealth says 2030. Others claim 2035. But history has a pattern. Breakthroughs rarely happen when planned. They happen when someone dares to fail faster. Somewhere, right now, in a warehouse lab, a prototype hums quietly. A plasma arc flickers. A star, still small, still fragile, burns in secret. And when it finally holds, the world will change overnight. When fusion becomes real, and it will, the implications go far beyond electricity. Desalination plants turning ocean water into drinking water. Hyperclean steel, cement, and fuel production. Cheap hydrogen for transport. Artificial intelligence powered by limitless energy. Even deep space propulsion, rockets running on miniature suns. Fusion won't just power civilization. It will evolve it. But that evolution will come with questions. Who owns fusion energy? Who profits from infinite power? Will it be shared freely, or sold to the highest bidder? We stand on the edge of abundance, but also on the edge of greed. Still, every great age begins with a leap of faith. The steam engine, electricity, the atom, the internet. Each reshaped the world, and each began as a gamble. Fusion is our next leap. The one that could light every village, every city, every corner of Earth without destroying it. Imagine a world with no energy bills, no power outages, no wars for oil, just light. Endless clean light. That's not science fiction anymore. That's the promise of fusion, and the race is already on. From lab bench to power grid, the dream is turning real. Humanity's oldest wish, to steal fire from the stars, is about to come true. And when it does, the world will never be the same. Next, inside the reactors, the science of making a star. At the heart of every star, the impossible happens. Hydrogen atoms collide and fuse. They release energy beyond comprehension, light, heat, life. For billions of years, the universe has done this effortlessly. Now, humanity is trying to copy it, inside a machine. We call it fusion. But really, it's creation. To build a star on Earth, you need to recreate the sun's core. Temperatures above 100 million degrees Celsius. Pressures beyond anything we can imagine. You can't use fire. You can't use metal. You need magnetic fields, invisible hands that shape the unshapable. The most famous machine to do this is called a tokamak. A donut-shaped reactor wrapped in superconducting magnets, spinning plasma faster than a jet engine. Inside, hydrogen atoms, usually isotopes like deuterium and tritium, collide, fuse, and release helium and a flood of energy. But here's the trick. You have to keep the plasma stable. Not for a second, not for a minute, but long enough to produce more energy than it consumes. That's ignition. The holy grail of fusion. Imagine trying to trap lightning inside a bubble made of magnetism. That's plasma confinement. The plasma wants to escape. It rides, shifts, and snaps like a living thing. It can tear through a reactor wall in milliseconds. To stop it, scientists use magnetic bottles, fields that twist and wrap the plasma into stable loops. In tokamaks, those loops spin like a cyclone. In stellarators, they twist into elegant, pretzel-like shapes. Complex, beautiful, efficient. Each design is a balance between art and math, between stability and power. And every year they're getting better, smarter, more controllable. Artificial intelligence now predicts plasma instabilities before they happen. What once took hours of simulation now takes seconds. Machines are learning how to tame stars. Fusion works by combining light atoms into heavier ones. A little mass disappears and that missing mass becomes energy. Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared. That's not theory anymore. That's the engine of the sun. The simplest reaction uses deuterium and tritium, two forms of hydrogen found in seawater and lithium. 1 gallon of seawater could, in theory, produce as much energy as 300 gallons of gasoline. No carbon, no waste, just clean power forever. That's why scientists call it infinite power. Not because it's magic, but because the fuel is everywhere. In oceans, in rocks, in our reach. There's no single way to build a star. There are many, each one chasing the same dream, through a different doorway. 1. The tokamak, the classic design. Used by ITER in France and sparked by Commonwealth Fusion. Powerful, proven, and close to ignition. 2. The stellarator, the sculpted version. Germany's Wendelstein 7X twists magnetic fields like DNA, producing astonishing stability. 3. Inertial confinement fusion. Used by America's National Ignition Facility, NIF. Here, lasers, hundreds of them, blast a fuel pellet smaller than a pea until it implodes. For a split second, it burns brighter than a star. 4. Magneto-inertial fusion. The rebel approach. Companies like Helion Energy use plasma jets instead of lasers. Fast, compact, radical. Each design is different, but their destination is the same. Net energy gain. Fusion isn't new. It's an obsession that's haunted generations. In the 1950s, they promised we'd have fusion within 20 years. By the 1980s, it was still 20 years away. Then the 2000s came, and the dream faded into myth. But some never stopped believing. Physicists who spent lifetimes chasing a single spark. Engineers who watched reactors fail, but came back the next morning anyway. They believed that one day we'd get it right. That we'd look back and say, they were crazy, but they were right. December 5, 2022. The ignition heard around the world. For the first time in human history, a fusion reaction produced more energy than it consumed. A fraction of a second. A billion-degree burst. But enough to prove it can be done. That moment changed everything. Governments noticed. Investors moved. Startups shifted from if to when. Because the laws of physics had just said yes. And once the universe says yes, the rest is engineering. Now the challenge isn't theory, it's construction. Magnets that can hold plasma stronger than gravity. Materials that don't vaporize under neutron bombardment. Cooling systems that work at near absolute zero. Fusion reactors are the ultimate paradox. A machine colder than space, built to hold a core hotter than the sun. Everything inside must be perfect. Every equation precise. Every failure catastrophic. And yet they keep building. Faster, smarter, closer. Why are billionaires, engineers, and governments pouring billions into this? Because they see what's coming. A world hungry for power, clean power. By 2050, global energy demand will double. Solar and wind won't be enough. Batteries can't hold the world's needs forever. Fusion is the only power source that scales like civilization itself. The only one that grows with us. And the investors know. Whoever cracks it first will not just change the world. They'll own the next century. When fusion finally hits the grid, everything changes. Cities will glow cleaner. Factories will run without smoke. Electric cars will charge faster than your phone. Airplanes could fly without fossil fuel. And poverty, energy poverty, could vanish. For the first time, energy will be abundant. Not controlled. Not rationed. Abundant. And abundance changes everything. Wars for oil? Obsolete. Climate guilt? Gone. Innovation? Limitless. The world will step into its next chapter. An era of energy freedom. Every revolution starts quietly. A spark. A whisper. A hum in a lab. But when fusion goes live, it won't be quiet. It will be a sunrise. A dawn that doesn't fade. A promise that humanity, for once, didn't just consume, but created. We will have done what only stars could do. We will have earned our place among them. Because fusion isn't just energy. It's proof that we never stopped believing in ourselves. That we refused to accept limits. That we looked at the sun and said, we can build that. And when that first reactor hums, it won't just light our cities. It'll light our destiny. Every revolution begins with a question. For fusion, that question has always been, how long until it changes everything? For 70 years, the answer was soon. Now, for the first time, soon finally feels like now. The 2030s will decide if fusion becomes humanity's greatest leap or another missed miracle. By 2035, at least a dozen private companies promise working demo plants. Commonwealth Fusion Systems says its compact reactor will hit the grid. Helion Energy vows to deliver electricity to Microsoft within 5 years. TE Technologies believes it can sustain plasma longer than ever before. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's construction schedules, blueprints, budgets. Every month the headlines get louder. Every experiment burns hotter. The clock is ticking toward ignition, not in a lab, but in your city. Fusion didn't get easier. We just got better. The next decade demands machines built from materials that don't yet exist. Walls that can survive neutron storms. Magnets stronger than any ever forged. AI systems smart enough to stabilize the sun in real time. Every success will rewrite textbooks. Every failure will cost millions. But progress, real progress, always walks through fire. Because when you're trying to build a star, perfection isn't optional. It's survival. Fusion isn't just a new power source. It's a new mindset. It forces humanity to ask, what would we do if energy were infinite? If every nation could power its cities without smoke, what would war even mean? If no one controlled the oil, would power itself lose its chains? Fusion changes not just physics, it changes philosophy. We build differently, dream differently, Think beyond survival toward creation. Because for the first time, energy wouldn't be the problem. Imagination would. Money fuels fusion now more than ever. Over $6 billion in private capital. Tech giants, oil companies, sovereign funds, all betting on light. What? Because fusion isn't charity. It's the biggest business opportunity in history. Whoever controls endless clean power controls the next century's economy. That's why the race is fierce. That's why mistakes cost time, and time costs empires. But this money also brings speed. Startups iterate faster. Prototypes appear in months, not decades. The race for infinite energy isn't just scientific anymore. It's commercial. And capitalism, for all its chaos, can move mountains when it sees gold, or in this case plasma. Fusion's path forward isn't guaranteed. The road is lined with failure. Plasma confinement may still collapse unpredictably. Materials may degrade too quickly. Funding could dry up if timelines slip. And then there's the grid. Even if fusion works tomorrow, how do we plug it into a world built for coal? The transition won't be instant. It will demand new infrastructure, new politics, new trust. Because when you carry a sun in a bottle, you can't afford shadows in the system. But imagine if we get it right. A world where deserts bloom under electric rain. Where developing nations leapfrog fossil fuels entirely. Where energy poverty, the silent killer, disappears forever. No more children studying by candlelight. No more wars fought over pipelines. No more excuses for inaction on climate. Fusion isn't just about power. It's about equality. About giving every human the right to light. But with power comes the question. What will we do with it? Infinite energy could save us. It could also spoil us. If energy becomes free, will humanity rise to build utopias, or fall into waste? Fusion will test not just our intelligence, but our wisdom. It will measure whether we deserve what we've created. Because when limits vanish, our choices become our new boundaries. Watch these moments. 2026 to 2028. First grid-connected demo reactors by private firms. 2030. Commercial pilot plants begin long-term testing. 2035. Fusion enters the marketplace. Power sold by plasma, not fuel. 2040. The world crosses a threshold. Clean energy becomes default. History quietly changes course. It won't be a single explosion. It will be a sunrise, spreading slowly, inevitably, unstoppably. The miracle of fusion isn't happening in one place. It's happening everywhere. In Boston and Berlin. In Tokyo and Lagos. In quiet labs and crowded factories. It's the janitor who cleans the floors of a fusion lab. The student writing code for magnetic control. The engineer tightening the bolt that holds the reactor's heart. Every hand is building the same dream, the light of forever. When that first plant hums, when cities light up without smoke or guilt, humanity will feel something we've forgotten, wonder. Because fusion isn't a machine. It's a message. It says we can fix what we've broken. We can create instead of consume. We can rise beyond the mistakes of the past. And for the first time in centuries, our brightest light won't come from burning. It will come from fusing. The universe has always run on fusion. It gave us warmth, gravity, existence. Now we've learned to hold that same fire, carefully, humbly, in our hands. The next decade will decide everything. But if we dare to finish what we've begun, the age of energy scarcity ends, and the age of creation begins. Because this is the story of humanity's greatest bet. Not on power, not on profit, but on possibility. The future has always burned within the stars. Now, it burns within you. Fusion is just the beginning. The next decade will rewrite everything we know about power, progress, and possibility. Subscribe now, and stay ahead of tomorrow.